Today on Jacksonville Inside and Out, we have Jen from PitSisters.org. Today we're here with Jen from PitSisters.org. She brought with her Nola, and she's going to tell us all about her organization. First, how did Nola come to be in your care?
Well, we've had Nala for quite a few years. She was pretty sick when we got her. She almost died from a disease called parvo, a very contagious disease that puppies get. And then not too long after that, she had to have 2 knee surgeries. So she's a very special girl in a lot of ways. She is now an AKC registered canine good citizen. And she's also a registered therapy dog and serves as a spokes dog for Pit Sisters.
I can see why. Very friendly. And what brought you to Jacksonville? Have you always lived here? Or?
I've been here for over 40 years in the city. Grew up here. My parents moved when I was little, and I love it here. Absolutely love it.
Okay. And PitSisters.org, how did that start up?
We started Pit Sisters almost 4 years ago. My sister and I were volunteering at the shelter downtown, and saw as we walked down the shelter runs, all the dogs were labeled as pit or pit mix. And so we thought, well, let's volunteer with the pit bull rescue. Well, there wasn't one, and we couldn't believe it. In a big city like Jacksonville, there was no other rescue that focused on dogs. So we said, well, we'll start one. And here we are 4 years later.
And so your rescue dogs, you do foster care for dogs, permanent placement,
Right.
that sort of thing?
Right. We rescue from our local kill shelters, and we put the dogs in foster homes, and then we adopt them out to families.
And what's your biggest need right now?
Our biggest need is foster homes, and with the foster homes, we ask that the families take in a dog. If there's another dog in the home, we do introductions to make sure everybody gets along. And once everybody's settled, we just ask that the foster keep the dog until the adoption is complete. So we pay for everything: vet care, food, medical, all the expenses. And you get what I'm getting right now, a huge furry hug and kiss.
So you do the rescuing, you do the placement. So if somebody's looking for a dog and they want to rescue a dog, a lot of times they'll go to the shelter, or they could go to PitSisters.org, and really, if they're looking for a dog that's good with other dogs, they're looking for a dog that's good with kids. You already have they would have a better idea of this, right?
They have a better idea because they're actually already in a home environment. And we also encourage adopting from the local shelters as well. Just the difference is we already have them in home, so we know just a little bit more about the home behavior.
So you know a little bit more about their background, how they behave, what they like.
If they're house trained, things like that, if they chew.
So how did this start? You said you didn't have one, so you started one. So how do you start an organization?
Well, we've learned a lot along the way. We came up with a name, found somebody to do a little logo for us, and started working. The first shelter we worked with was the one downtown, and we have a very good relationship with them now as well. And we just started asking for foster homes, volunteers. Our main source of help has come from Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and we're very active on that, and we're able to get a lot of volunteers and fosters, and we also have partnerships with local businesses and bigger businesses to help us with medical needs, funding, things like that.
Okay. And what happens with the foster care situation? How does that work? Somebody calls you and says what?
They can go online to our website, fill out a foster application, and then we ask questions. If there's a dog in the home, if there are kids in the home, we'll ask ages, personalities, things like that. If there's a cat in the home, all questions that we need to know before we bring a dog in, because we don't want to bring a dog that's not cat friendly into a home with a cat, etc. So we find out all the information, and then we will find a dog that matches that family. And then we'll rescue the dog, bring them to the foster home after we give some vet care, make sure they're not sick, up to date on their vaccines, all that good stuff. And then we bring the crate, the food, the collar, the leash, toys, whatever they need to the foster home with the foster dog. And then that family just hangs on to the dog until they're adopted. So if there's a vet visit that the dog needs to have and the family can't drop them at the vet, we have volunteers come and get them. So we do whatever we can so that the foster does not have to go out of their way.
Right, right. And how does it work as far as adopting? I mean, is it the same process? They contact you online, you check out the home, that sort of thing?
They can either contact us online, or we have adoption events every month. Right now it's at the Earth Pets in Mandarin, the third Saturday of the month. And they can either come in person and meet the dogs and fill out an application, or they can fill out the application online. Once we get that, we review the application, ask any questions we may have, and then we set up a time and a day to bring the dog to meet the family. We go to the adopter's home, because if there's another dog in the home, we want to make sure that dog will accept a new dog in their home, versus just meeting them outside. Sometimes it's different reactions. So.
Oh, I could see that. Now, there's a kind of a reputation that comes with pit bulls, and over the years, it's been different dogs. It's been Dobermans back in the '80s with the Doberman Pinscher Gang movies and silly things like that. And you had the German Shepherds for a while, Rottweilers. The pit bull thing, though, seems to have stuck. Why do you think that is?
It seems like it's lasted a lot longer than the other dogs. I think some of that is media coverage. If there's a dog attack, the media's covers it 230 more times than if it's any other dog. The other piece of that is that dogs are incorrectly visually identified. So I can't tell you how many news stories I've seen where they show the picture of the dog, and how do you tell whether it's a pit bull or not? The only real way to do it is from a DNA test.
Right.
And there was actually a study done by the University of Florida that had veterinarians and animal welfare workers. They asked them to identify dogs visually, and they got it wrong 75% of the time.
All right.
So these are people that do this for a living. If they can't identify them right, how would a reporter do it? How would a veterinarian do it? So on and so forth.
All right. Well, we'll be back in just a few minutes with more of Jacksonville Inside and Out. Welcome back to Jacksonville Inside and Out. We are here with the president of PitSisters.org, Jen Deane. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
And and her rescue dog, Nala, who's very, very friendly.
Yep, there she goes.
And we were talking about how pit bulls have a vicious reputation. So, and you were talking about it's hard to tell except for the DNA.
Right.
So, why has this sort of myth persisted?
Well, and the other piece is kind of a three-pronged problem. The other piece is the dogfighting piece, right? So while Michael Vick brought a lot of awareness to the issue of dogfighting, I mean, it's still going on to this day in many cities around the world.
Right, which is fueled by like underground gambling.
Right.
How do you put a stop to that? I mean, there are places here in Jacksonville where like a friend of mine who is a very big dog lover. She knows there's dogfighting going on down the street, and she'll report it, but nobody ever does anything about it.
Well, the biggest thing to do is to report it. Like you said, I've reported several, and things have been done about it.
Okay.
The Humane Society of the U.S. has a toll-free number to report dogfighting, as well as the local shelter downtown. They're really good about following up with things like that. So that's the biggest issue, is to report it.
Right. So how do we change this attitude? How do we convince people that this dog here isn't vicious and going to kill me?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we found over the past few years working with people and trying to educate is you can give facts all day long. You can say, that they don't cause dog bites, that they're loyal, they're sweet. I mean, look at her. Does she look like she has a mean bone in her body? No. And that's the thing. We found that experience is what changes people's minds. So we have a team of pit bull therapy dogs that we bring to different places and different events. And
now you said that people were afraid of Nala here.
Yep.
Until you put the tutu on.
Right. That's the other thing we do. We try to dress dogs in kind of fun, non-intimidating clothes. So like the boys have bow ties. Sometimes they have tuxedos. The girls have tutus, sometimes little dresses. We do a fashion show, the Southern Women's Show, where we have a lot of pit bulls dressed up in different outfits, and they're just the hit of the show. So I think if you show the dogs in a friendly, non-intimidating light, and let people experience how they really are, I can't tell you how many people, once they've asked what kind of dog Nala is, that have been just shocked that, oh, she's so friendly, I thought pit bulls were mean. So it's the experience, and it's not believing everything you hear.
And it's how you dress them, apparently.
Yeah, well, that does help a lot.
So now, entertainment-wise, my company has used one of your dogs in a short film. Pit bulls actually have a reputation for being good in film work, going all the way back to the Little Rascals. The Argane series, Petey was a pit bull, and that's how we viewed pit bulls for decades. So if a director wants to use a dog in a film, and they contact you, what do you want from them, and how do they go about it?
Well, it's pretty simple. If they just email what they're looking for, what kind of dog they're looking for, we most likely have them. We have like therapy dogs like Nala, and we've got another therapy dog, Vito, that was just in a short film. Right? It just depends on the personality. So they just contact us, we set it up, and
now specifically friendly dogs, you're not gonna have
we're not gonna portray an aggressive dog.
Yeah, if somebody's trying to make Cujo, you're not gonna help them with that.
Well, one, we don't have dogs that are like that. But two, we wouldn't portray a dog like that. That's against what we're trying to work toward.
Now, you talked about rehabilitating dogs from dog fighting. How have you done a lot of that? How difficult can that be? And
the thing that a lot of people don't know is dog fighting. It's not just the dogs that are fighting that are victims. It's also dogs that are chained up, the breeders, things like that. So we've taken dogs that were involved in actual fighting, and we've taken dogs that weren't involved but were witness to it, and they were impacted in different ways. The big thing is to have a professional work with them. So we have a canine expert that comes in with us and prescribes a plan for those dogs, training plan. And then a lot of it's consistency, and it's positive reinforcement.
right,
And that goes a long way.
right, because you can't change a negative attitude in a dog by adding more negative
Exactly.
to that.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Right.
So, so in addition to that, what other kinds of problems do you find with working with pit bulls? I mean, particularly, aside from the attitudes, what are some of the conditions you find these dogs in?
Well, I mean, a lot of the dogs that we rescue, we specialize in helping dogs that are sick. So we've rescued dogs that are nothing but skin and bones. We've rescued dogs that are seriously ill, that have diseases that last their life. Things like that. There's a lot of neglect going on, abuse, things like that. But like you said, it's not just the attitude. There's other issues with pit bulls, like insurance companies,
Right.
HOAs. A lot of them won't allow pit bulls. Apartment complexes, a lot of them have restrictions, not just against pit bulls, but lots of other breeds of dogs.
Right, and it's based on myth mostly, right?
Right.
Well, how do we change that? How do you change what insurance companies are doing?
That's the tall order. There's a lot that needs to be changed with the insurance companies as well as with laws in and of itself, in and of themselves. There's a lot of laws that need to be really looked at and rewritten, such as like penalties for animal cruelty and things like that. So if you allow people to keep doing that, you're not helping the animals.
Right, right.
So.
Are there any laws particular to Jacksonville that you think need to be changed or that need to be introduced?
Yeah, there's not tough enough animal cruelty laws in Jacksonville.
What's a typical penalty now?
It depends on the situation, but we've seen it where there was documented abuse and the judge throws it out. We've seen all kinds of different things. So we think that not only do the laws need to be rewritten, we need to look at who our judges are and who our officials are.
Right.
Even it's not pit bull specific, but there was just an issue in Clay County with feral cats, where there were some councilmen that were against animals that wanted to introduce a ban on feeding feral cats. So, I mean, we need to, as voters, take responsibility, look at who's in office, look at who's campaigning and what they stand for, and vote for people that believe in what we believe in, so we can get things changed.
That makes sense. Well, we'll be back in just a few more minutes with more of Jacksonville Inside and Out. Welcome back to Jacksonville Inside and Out. We're here with the president of PetSisters.org, and we were just talking about laws and picking our public officials. We have an election coming up, which has really I have no idea where anybody stands on anything involving that. I don't think, as far as mayor goes, I don't think we know where either a mayor candidate stands on anything, the way they answer questions. But what else can we do as far as, like, if you're part of a homeowners association and they don't want to allow particular dogs, how do you change that?
Well, I think that people need to start standing up and talking to their HOAs, talking to the boards, asking if they can bring, if they have a well-behaved pit bull, Rottweiler, German Shepherd, whatever the breed is that they're discriminated against, they bring that dog to meet people and show them that it's not what people think they are. And I think more like apartments and things like that need to judge dogs as individuals and not by what they're called or what they look like, because that doesn't matter. What matters is how they act. Makes
sense. And aside from that, I mean, what are some of the other myths that you've had to deal with specifically, with, like, when people talk about adopting? I mean, what are some of the things that you have to put people at ease?
Yeah, I mean, one is kids. You know, I'm not going to adopt a pit bull because I have kids. Well, that, you know, they were raised in the beginning. They were nanny dogs. Not that I would ever suggest leaving any dog alone with a child. I would not. But a lot of these dogs are great with kids.
That goes back to PD, right?
Right. I mean, I have a 6-year-old little girl, and this one here absolutely loves her. Loves her, and she loves. You know, it's just mutual. So, you know, again, each dog's individual. There are some dogs good with kids. There are some that are not, regardless of what the breed is or what they look like.
Or it's sort of a personality thing.
Right. I mean, that's what we try to bring home to people. The other thing is they're big dogs that require a lot of exercise. Well, it depends on the dog. Some dogs like to take hour-long walks. I will tell you right now, if I took her for an hour-long walk, about 20 minutes in, she'd lie down and look at me and say, "Carry me home." So it depends. Some of our pit bulls are couch potatoes. Some of them do love to go on runs and things like that. So that's what we try to get across. Every dog's different, just like each person's different.
That's one of the things that worries me about living in an apartment. I don't really want to have a dog in an apartment because it doesn't seem fair to the dog. But you say that's not necessarily
true. It depends on the dog that you get.
Like my dad got English bulldogs because they were, to quote him, the lazy man's dog. And they just lay around a lot.
And it depends on the dog. I've seen English bulldogs that like to run too. So.
Well, these like to run whenever somebody's opening up.
When
food.
They have treats, right?
Yeah. But beyond that, yeah, very, very, very lazy kind of sit around kind of dogs. But even so, I still. I don't know, for me it's just like, I feel like, because I grew up with dogs and I always had a place, like a backyard for them to run in and you know, long walks around the block and things like that. You know, in California, you know, you wouldn't want to do, well, I never would want to do that in New York when we were on a 6th floor apartment or something like that, or where I'm at now, where it's just kind of, I feel caged up in that place half the time.
And it depends, right? Some complexes have dog park areas, a lot of them do, where you can bring the dog down and you know, have it run around. But you brought up a good point about backyard. Something I should bring up is we have seen dogs that have been stolen from backyards and used for dog fighting, particularly pit bulls, but other dogs as well. We've seen dogs get out of yards and get hit by cars. So we take a pretty strong stance on people leaving dogs outside unattended. Right. For that reason, we don't want to see anything happen to the dog.
Make sure you're with them. Make sure that at least the yard is like, you know, they can't get out, sort of thing.
And the biggest thing is to be with them, not to leave them unattended.
And with the
there could be a snake in the yard, and you know.
Right. And with the summer months, you just don't want to, you know, let the dog out in the backyard and forget.
Right.
Because that could lead to heat exhaustion.
Heat stroke, right.
Yeah, and they have fur all year round, not just when it's cold.
That's right.
But and then it gets too cold for dogs too.
Right.
Depending on the dog, I guess. I mean, huskies are kind of built for it.
Right.
But pit bulls are short-haired dogs, so.
Yeah, they don't like to get hot.
No.
At least the ones I've seen are not a fan of being hot.
Right. So what are some of the other issues that come up?
You know, the biggest thing is the insurance, HOAs, apartments, people that are perceptions. So even when somebody just adopts a dog from us, sometimes I've seen a couple times where people come and say, we didn't know how much these dogs are discriminated against. People are afraid to come near my dog. What do I do? So we try to help educate and say, look, you know, say my dog's friendly. Come approach my dog. It's fine. You know, things like that. I'll try to help educate where we can. There's a lot
Or
of
put a tutu on and.
put a tutu on, yeah, put a bow tie on.
On the dog, not the person.
No, not the person.
Yeah.
No.
Although that could work too. Well, that
You
work
could be
in
matching,
different ways.
matching tutus, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that could work.
But yeah, we've heard that too. So
Okay, and you mentioned stealing dogs too.
Right.
One of the things that when I've read about dog fighting is what they call bait dogs.
yes,
So they'll take, like, if you have like a little, like I don't know, Cocker Spaniel or Chihuahua or whatever, it's just like a little poodle, they'll take that
right.
and I guess it's part of like dog fight training or something. Well, they'll duct tape the mouth shut of the dog and then throw it in the ring to fight the bigger dog.
Right.
And
And that happens with pit bulls too. We've seen a lot that have been used as bait dogs. Meek.
Really? Oh,
Some of
because
them are very
they're
meek.
they're not aggressive dogs
No.
naturally. So yeah.
No,
So if you're not raising them to fight, then they're not really good at it.
right,
Makes sense.
definitely.
So, what about donations? Do you guys take donations?
We do. We are a 501c3 registered charity, and our biggest source for donations is the public.
Okay.
So we take donations on our website, pitsisters.org, or through PayPal, or if you come to one of our events. We greatly appreciate help.
So to sum up, you need people to be foster parents for these dogs. These very diverse dogs, and you need people to volunteer time and money.
Right.
And all of that can be done at pitsisters.org.
That's right.
All right, look it up, pitsisters.org, and if you have the space, if you have the time, if you have whatever it is, go to pitsisters.org, see about adopting a dog or even fostering a dog. If you don't want to make the lifetime commitment, you can always make the semi-commitment. All right, thank you for watching Jacksonville Inside and Out. Have a good day.